Imagine a material that is hard, wear-resistant, excellent at damping vibrations, and at the same time relatively easy to shape into complex forms, which is exactly why cast iron has been widely used for centuries in engineering, construction, and industry, even though its production is based on carefully controlled physical and chemical processes. Cast iron is an iron-based alloy with a relatively high carbon content, typically between about 2 and 4%, which is the key difference compared to steel, where the carbon content is much lower, and it is precisely this higher carbon content that gives cast iron its characteristic properties, such as good fluidity when molten, but also increased brittleness. Because of its excellent fluidity in the liquid state, cast iron is ideal for casting, as it can fill even very complex molds, allowing the production of components like engine blocks, pipes, and machine parts without extensive machining. The production of cast iron does not begin with casting itself, but much earlier, with raw materials. The primary inputs are iron ore, coke, and limestone, where iron ore contains iron oxides that must be reduced to metallic iron. Coke serves both as a fuel and a reducing agent, and limestone helps remove impurities. If you like similar educational content, please like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. These materials are processed in a blast furnace, a large industrial structure where extremely high temperatures, often exceeding 1500 degrees Celsius, drive chemical reactions that transform solid ore into molten metal. Inside the furnace, oxygen is removed from the ore, producing liquid iron that absorbs carbon from the coke, gradually shifting its composition toward that of cast iron. The result of this stage is pig iron, which is rich in carbon and forms the basis for cast iron production, but still requires further processing to achieve the desired properties. Once the raw materials, iron ore, coke, and limestone, are prepared and continuously fed into the blast furnace, the real transformation begins, and this stage is one of the most important in the entire production chain, because it is here that solid mineral material is converted into molten metal through a combination of thermal energy, chemical reactions, and controlled material flow. The blast furnace operates as a vertical, continuous system where materials are charged from the top, while hot air, often preheated to very high temperatures, is injected from the bottom through nozzles, creating an environment where coke burns intensely and generates both heat and gases rich in carbon. As the raw materials descend through the furnace, they pass through different temperature zones, and in each zone specific reactions take place, gradually transforming the composition of the material. At higher levels, the iron ore begins to lose oxygen through reduction reactions, where gases produced from the combustion of coke react with iron oxides and remove oxygen atoms, leaving behind metallic iron. As the material moves further downward into hotter regions, the iron begins to melt and collect at the bottom of the furnace, forming a pool of liquid metal. At the same time, this molten iron absorbs carbon from the surrounding environment, significantly increasing its carbon content and giving it properties characteristic of pig iron, which is the precursor to cast iron. Limestone plays a crucial role during this process by reacting with impurities such as silica and forming slag, a separate liquid layer that floats on top of the molten metal because it is less dense. This separation is essential because it allows unwanted materials to be removed efficiently, improving the quality of the metal. At the bottom of the furnace, two distinct layers are formed. The lower layer consists of molten iron rich in carbon. Above it is the slag, containing impurities. Both are periodically tapped, meaning they are drained from the furnace through separate outlets, allowing continuous operation without stopping the process. The blast furnace operates continuously, often for years at a time, and requires extremely precise control of temperature, airflow, material composition, and reaction conditions, because even small deviations can significantly affect the quality and consistency of the output. The product of this stage, pig iron, is not yet a finished material, but rather an intermediate product that contains high levels of carbon and must be further refined and adjusted to become usable cast iron with specific mechanical properties. When molten pig iron leaves the blast furnace, it already contains a high percentage of carbon, but it is still not a controlled engineering material because its composition is inconsistent. It may contain unwanted impurities, and most importantly, the internal structure of carbon within the metal is not yet optimized for specific applications. This is where the transformation into cast iron truly happens. The key factor is not only how much carbon is present, but how that carbon exists inside the metal, because carbon can either form graphite or remain chemically bonded in a hard structure known as cementite, and this difference fundamentally determines the mechanical behavior of the final material. To control this, the molten metal is transferred into ladles or melting furnaces, where its composition is carefully adjusted by adding alloying elements such as silicon, manganese, and sometimes magnesium or other modifiers. Silicon plays a particularly important role because it promotes the formation of graphite instead of cementite. When graphite forms as flakes within the structure, the result is gray cast iron, which is relatively easy to machine, has excellent vibration damping properties, and is widely used in engine blocks and machinery bases. On the other hand, if carbon remains bound to cementite, the result is white cast iron, which is extremely hard and wear resistant, but also very brittle, making it suitable for applications where abrasion resistance is more important than toughness. A more advanced form is ductile cast iron, where graphite appears as small spherical nodules instead of flakes. This structure is achieved by adding small amounts of magnesium or similar elements, which modify how graphite precipitates during solidification. The spherical graphite structure significantly improves strength, toughness, and resistance to cracking, making ductile iron suitable for more demanding mechanical applications. During this stage, the molten metal is also refined and cleaned. Gases and impurities are removed to prevent defects such as porosity or inclusions, which could weaken the final product. Temperature control is equally critical, because it influences how the structure will form during solidification, and even slight variations can lead to different material properties. This phase is therefore not just about melting metal, but about precisely engineering its internal structure at a microscopic level, ensuring that the final cast iron will have exactly the properties required for its intended use. Once the molten cast iron has the correct chemical composition and temperature, the next critical stage is casting, where the liquid metal is transformed into a solid component with a precise shape, and this is the step that makes cast iron so widely used in industry. The molten metal is poured into molds, most commonly sand molds, which are made from specially prepared sand mixtures that can withstand extremely high temperatures while still allowing complex geometries to be formed at relatively low cost. These molds are not just simple cavities shaped like the final product. They include a carefully designed system of channels, known as gating systems, which guide the flow of molten metal into the mold, as well as vents that allow air and gases to escape during filling. Proper mold design is essential. If the metal does not flow evenly, defects such as air pockets, cold shuts, or incomplete filling can occur, which would compromise the integrity of the final part. Temperature control during pouring is also crucial. If the metal is too cool, it may solidify prematurely and fail to fill all areas of the mold. If it is too hot, it can lead to excessive shrinkage, internal stresses, or degradation of the material structure. After the mold is filled, the metal begins to solidify. This is one of the most important phases, because the cooling rate directly influences the internal structure of the cast iron, including how graphite forms and how the final mechanical properties develop. Controlled cooling is essential to avoid defects. If different parts of the casting cool at different rates, internal stresses can build up, leading to warping or cracking. Engineers often design molds and cooling conditions in such a way that solidification occurs in a controlled and predictable manner. Once the metal has fully solidified, the mold is removed. In the case of sand casting, this typically means breaking the mold apart to retrieve the casting. The raw casting at this stage still contains excess material from the gating system and may have surface irregularities that require further processing. The result is a near net-shaped component, meaning it is very close to its final geometry, but still needs finishing operations before it can be used. Once the casting is removed from the mold, the production process is not yet complete, because the raw cast iron component still needs to undergo several finishing operations to meet precise mechanical and dimensional requirements. The first step is usually cleaning and removal of excess material. This includes cutting off the gating system, grinding off rough edges, and removing any remaining sand or surface residues from the casting process. After that, machining may be required, especially for parts that need tight tolerances, smooth surfaces, or precise interfaces with other components, such as engine blocks or mechanical housings. In some cases, heat treatment is applied to modify the internal structure of the cast iron. This can reduce internal stresses formed during cooling, improve mechanical properties, or adjust hardness depending on the intended use. Quality control is a critical part of the process. Cast iron components may contain hidden defects such as internal voids, cracks, or inclusions, so various inspection methods are used, including visual inspection, ultrasonic testing, and X-ray analysis to ensure structural integrity. The final properties of cast iron are what make it so valuable. It is highly wear-resistant, has excellent compressive strength, and is very effective at damping vibrations, which is why it is commonly used in machine bases, engine blocks, brake discs, and heavy industrial components. However, cast iron is also relatively brittle compared to steel, meaning it does not tolerate high-impact loads or bending very well, which must be considered during design. The reason cast iron remains so widely used is its balance of performance, cost, and manufacturability. It allows complex shapes to be produced efficiently without expensive machining, while still offering reliable mechanical performance. The entire process, from raw materials to final product, is a carefully controlled sequence of steps that transforms natural resources into highly functional engineering components. Cast iron is therefore not just a simple material, but the result of advanced metallurgical control and industrial precision.